Yeah, we are moving to our last presenter, and I'm very happy that Paloma Staltavol de la Paz is with us. She is full professor at the University of Alicante. She was a visiting professor at Berkeley and in Georgia State. She is one of the most distinguished scholars we have in continental Europe. She will present something on Airbnb work she has, more or less done for UN Economics Commission. So Paloma, it's an honor, it's a pleasure to have you here with us and be the final speaker. Sorry for the delay. We just spoiled a little bit the prejudice against German punctuality. We are trying to make it up for the Deutsche Bahn. So now the floor is yours and guide us through Airbnb in Europe.
Thank you very much. Could you hear me right? Yeah, could you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, good. So, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure for me to talk to you about our research, and I have to congratulate to be here since the beginning and hear very, very interesting presentation. So, congratulations for you as well. Can I share the screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Let me tell me if it works. But because sometimes
No,
doesn't
well.
work. It was well, so
well.
you see that. That's good. Let me put the mode. So you see only one slide, right?
Perfect.
Okay. So this is a line of research we started since 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago, before the pandemic, in order to investigate a bit more about the mobility and short-term rental markets. The short-term rental market is something that has exist. I assume so because there's no statistics about that in most of the cities, on most of the capitals, but appears to be known when the platforms were implemented and then started to manage the exchange between suppliers, housing suppliers, and demanders. And there are a lot of literature, huge literature, talking about whether or not this activity is affecting to is affecting to the housing prices first, or are affecting to or are competing illegally with the hotel markets. Most of the literature is focused on this. But we are more interested in other aspects of this type of mobility. Airbnb is not the only one platform. There are others. It's considered the cheaper one, but it's not so cheap, depending on the city. And is the only one that gives us information, statistical information. So this is why most of the research are increased substantially when Airbnb start to publish the data. So what we do here, you see the contents, right? Do you see that? Yes, good. Sometimes it doesn't work. So what we are interested is why is global? How it was like an explosion of mobility between countries and around the world, and appear at the same time in most cities. And the appearance was after the global financial crisis, that during the global financial crisis covered some part of demand, which are completely different than the demand is covering now. And the huge amount, you see later, the huge increase of this activity started in 2014-15, when the economies start to left the global financial crisis back and then recover the income. So it's a global phenomenon, happen everywhere, appear at the same time. And the issue is why? Can we find some time pattern that could explain us how this started one part and then transmit immediately to the others? Or can we find any pattern that could link for some reason? The reason comes later. Cities. This is what I bring to you this afternoon. There are a summary of 2 works we are doing in parallel. that try to, first of all, show the phenomena with data. So in terms of, well, using time series. Second is try to identify whether or not the cities are linked each other through this market, which means that maybe people are moving to one city and then to another in the same run, or they are showing us some phenomena that are happening in the cities, which are similar to other cities, and whether or not this market is, we enter here in part of the literature, is a real origin of the pressure of housing prices, rental prices more in most of the cities, affecting affordability. So there are three questions that are, well, not easy to show. The first one is easier, but I try to answer here. So we have two main hypotheses, one each paper. One is whether or not there are systematic patterns that link European cities. We focus on Europe. In Europe, we have information from Asia. In this work, I'm going to show you some Asian cities, but in this, the analysis is focusing on Europe, and whether or not there's a systematic pattern that link the cities. So we can see another area where the main cities in Europe are linked and related, economically related, and whether or not the short-term rental market, which is the market, is in fact a market, right, is influencing housing prices in the conventional rental market. There are two rental markets. The second one is a key market for affordability. We have problems of affordability problems everywhere in most of cities, big cities, at the same time again. So we are trying to connect these phenomena we are seeing. So I just try to summarize the data set in order to you to see, well, it's not easy. It's not an easy work here. So then let me just go ahead through the back to ahead a bit. So we know now that the cities follows a common pattern, and there are like a link among the cities that make them demand for short-term rental market co-move. The co-movement is a way to express and identify when the markets move together. And when markets move together should be because there are causal relationship linking them or linking to similar phenomena happening in the same market. So the literature we have suggests that this is because the strong demand of tourism. So this is the massive literature here are focusing on tourism sector and leisure sector that are the main drivers for this market. But we don't agree for this view. We think that tourism could be a reason, but not the only reason. So checking the literature about general mobility, we found that migration migration happened at the similar time that this demand is growing. So there are links between demographics, migration, and short-term rental market. And at the same time, we also see a strong increase on tourist movement. So probably the massive literature is right, and I'm wrong. But we are trying to check whether there is a link, if the linkages among cities are due to only tourism, and whether or not they affect to the conventional housing. You can see one of the papers that demonstrate co-movements. This is the first paper demonstrating this link here, demonstrating co-movements among the housing, the short-term rental market. So very quick summary of the literature I have seen. Most tourism and facility fields impacting the growth of the short-term rental market, affecting demand for hotel demand. And there are influences on rent, so increasing affordability problems, I said you before. And the the conclusion of the result of this increase on these markets is that if they influence to the conventional and rental market, then are increasing for affordability problems. This reason is one. This is the first one. Reason is one that has made most of the cities to regulate this market, and is also a reason that could understand the process of gentrification in main cities. Gentrification in the wrong effect, which is expulsing local population. So it's quite important phenomena that has a lot of implications, and then identify one or two implications need or required to be more concrete on this, right? So most of the data used for these previous papers are panels or cross-section, but if there are panels are focusing on one city or a couple of cities, the paper I have seen with the larger number of cities analyzing at the same time is 11 cities. We have 42. And most of these data sets are also based on listing that reduce the possibility to do a time series analysis and then project. Right. This is we focus on the time series analysis and create the data sets. So our questions are, if there are causal movements and synchronization among the markets, which are the channels that make these cities to be together, to be related? And we have some answers for this. Tourism is the massive answer from the literature in Airbnb, or one-day shopping. This is the answer from part of the urban studies analysis that are testing how the housing and rental increase in the cities is because a lot of mobility due to shopping. Labor mobility, maybe there are no words talking about the impact of labor mobility on Airbnb. It's difficult because the data sets are difficult to match, or there are amenities attractiveness. If there are amenities, it could be directly the impact on tourism sector. People are attracted for cities with more number of amenities, say Berlin, and then stay there a couple of days using Airbnb and then go to another city. So this creates city packages, maybe. And what are these packages? If some people from Asia comes to Europe, they are follow different cities. Which are the cities? They are packages. This is our question. And another key issue is whether or not the housing rental prices or booking activities could influence each other. So if the cities are related, then what happened in one market is affecting to the other. Then there is a systematic demand visiting same group of cities or not, creating these packages we are looking for, right? The channels are another focus. So what I show you here is one of our papers, how to extract the systematic demand visiting and creating packages, and the channels that through which the impact on prices could go through. So I bring you two presentations. First of all is the identification of the mechanism, revealing the reaction of the city level of these packages, one against other, and how they affect to the prices, and which are the main drivers to affecting prices rather than the short-term rental market. These two papers or two analyses are, as far as we know, the first in the literature, the first results in the literature, and give us the more important thing for us, give us the reasons and the impact that of this phenomena, which is, well, quite recent. So the more one of the more difficult issues for us is the data set. So to do both, we have a deal with huge data sets. In the first one, the Airbnb data we use are micro data sets coming from inside Airbnb. They are open, so you can download if you want. But they have, well, this website scrape once a month, well, once a semester now, scrape the Airbnb website and then give you the micro data sets like it is. Probably they delete some variables, but so this means that every quarter we have millions of observation by city. So it's a huge data set. The data set we have used comes from 2015, but in 2015, not all cities are information. We can say that almost the 42 cities we use are information since 2017. We stopped to extracting information 2020, and we are close to update the data set again. The second exercise comes to 2022, so it's updated, but not the first one. We have daily data. In fact, we have minute data, but we extract the daily data to take the information a day, and we have millions. And we eliminate 4 cities that are only a few information. So the analysis was done with 39 main cities in Europe, which are probably most of them. They are all the capitals plus main cities in some countries. So, and the interesting issue is that we use only one of the, for this first paper, one of the files that Inside Airbnb give you. Inside Airbnb give you 3 files, huge files. One is the listing, you see the housing characteristics and so on. Second is calendar. The calendar gives you what happened every minute. So every minute you know when the house is booked or not, is available. And the third is the reviews, where this data set recover the opinions of people that live in there. So we use the second one, the calendar, is the only one which is minute to minute or day to day. The other ones are summaries of a month. And we have all the components for the market. We have supply and the prices. So we know which one are available. So those supply units, we are not available, those that are already booked. And we have the prices of both. I have to say that the booking price is only available since 2019, so we don't use it this, we use asking prices. Let me show you some evidence. This is the first part. Show the phenomena. This is the evidence. They are the two lines in the top, the 2 blue lines are London and Paris. And you can see the huge amount of activity they have, right? But the rest of the cities, they are all cities here, follow the same pattern, follow the same dynamics, right? So this is what tell us that, well, probably the relationship is a fact. These are the booked only, those units that are already booked, already contract or outside the market, you cannot book it. And this is the evolution of those that are supply, not booked yet. And well, the evolution is quite interesting. There is like 2 waves, 16, 17, 18, and then at the end of 18, the activity is reduced. That means that you see the jump in the other. That means that there are an increase in booked in the units, and then another cycle. And you see how after 2020, the number of books listed and booked are reducing. But don't pay attention to this, because as our data set ends in 2020, this is the expectations to book a unit in the next year and a half. So what we saw is that there was a lot of activity during 2020, and as I'm going to show you later, the crisis, say COVID-19 shock affect only a few to this market. Only a few, right? So this is some example of the cities. We have the evolution, the long-term evolution of every city. We also have the prices. You see how both the evolution of the prices show quite different reaction in the cities. Sometimes the cycle is growing, sometimes the cycle is not. And these are the Asian markets I promised you to show you. And I put here Berlin, which is one of the cities we have from Germany for you. So you see how the jump in 2019 of Berlin is very important. And the reduction of number of booking units start before the COVID-19. If you see what you check what happened in the economic growth and in the looking at macroeconomic variables, you see how at the end of 2019 the economy start to reduce the growth level. So something happened there. We know what happened now. That reduced the activity, the economic activity. And then in Berlin and also in other countries, in other cities, also reduce the strength of activity. So, well, it seems to be quite close to the evolution of the economy. This was another reason that make us suspect that it's not only tourism, but well, and you can see the prices. The prices are not affected for this reduction, and rather than that, follow growing. In the case of Berlin, growth with no very strong rate, but in the other cities cases, the increase is incredibly high. So what we do? So the first we do is we suspect that there is some synchronization between labor mobility, which is in the back of this, but we still are trying to demonstrate. But what we do was to define a short-term market model. The amount of units booked depends on the evolution of prices. Very simple. We control by the other characteristics. This market is based on daily base. So we observe probably 90% of the all units in the market is the total one. And we control for fixed effects by cities, and we include two control variables because we were interested to see two effects. One is the pandemic effect, which is a control variable that is a dummy for 2020.3, which is the month where it started the application of measures, and the other is the weekend effect. The weekend effect allows us to distinguish between those cities that are very tourist-driven, so focus on tourism, than those that are not. So if a weekend effect has a strong effect in the city, so we could understand, no, we could believe that the city has a short-term rental market that is driven by people that move because tourism for purposes. But how many people can move during the week because of tourism? Probably less. So this is a way to test whether or not there is a focus on tourism or not. Other reasons can be there. And the second step is to, once we estimate this model, then we try to identify the cities. This is a model with cities. The maximum number of cities are 16 because there are time series daily, and it's impossible, or it's quite difficult to estimate the co-integration larger than 16 for 16. So it's a limit of my calculation. Maybe it's my computer, but so we reduced to 16 cities. And then the second is to calculate the cross correlation among cities and among lags, trying to find a pattern that could give us this. There is a cross correlation among the prices and the contracts. And why we see the cross correlation? We see because the literature in economics supports well the idea of cross elasticities. What means the cross elasticities? Means that, well, if two markets are linked, what's happening in one market affect to the other. This is the cross elasticity. If prices in, say, Berlin change, growth, for instance, then the impact could be seen in Berlin cities, but also in other cities that are linked with them. If prices increase, quantities reduce in other cities. This happened in the industrial effect. It happened at macroeconomic level in many sectors. And we wanted to know whether or not they happen also in this market. And the idea is the following very quickly, if it works, I'm not sure. So we have two markets that are related. In the beginning, we don't know whether they are related or not and how they are related. So if one market city one are related with city two. So just imagine that prices increase in the short-term rental market in the city one. And then the increase on the prices in the short-term rental market in city one are affecting to city two. How? So it could affect. This is the expression of the cross elasticity. It could affect reducing the quantity cross, so it's reducing the demand, affecting in a negative way, or increasing the demand. So expanding the demand in the other city. So if the first happen, we can say that both markets are complementary markets. So they are demanded together. Right. And it happened in the other way. So we can say that there are substitutes markets. So the change of prices in the city one are making demand to move to the city two and then expanding the demand in the city two. So this is what the cross elasticity gives us. It's very simple calculation and very sensitive explanation. So please don't see the equation. So we apply this to the daily data. We, of course, pass every step. So we test for stationarity, we test for co-integration, and we find co-integration, we find non-stationary series, and then we have to apply a beacon model, a vector error correction model. It's very well known and very sensitive and precise tool. And then we calculate the cross elasticities and also the weekend effect and also the COVID effect, right? So we apply to the macro data. I say you before, daily data in a city panel when 115 common observation, 16 cross sections, 16 cities. With high frequency. This is the characteristic. Let me show you some results very quickly. This is the spillover effects. We found there is the co-integration among cities are statistically significant, means that there is a spillover effect between them. So there are spillover effects between the 16 to 16 cities. This is the expression of the spillover effects only for Europe. Let's say that only for Europe, and when we add the Asian cities, we still find co-integration with lower volatility. So first of all, they are correlated. This is like an expression of every city, and when we calculate the cross elasticities, we found the cross elasticities following a very consistent manner. So we have negative and positive. Negative are in red and positive are in black. The -1, -2, -7 are the lags that are statistically significant. Just forget this if you don't understand the tool. But the great thing is that most of the lags that fit the model are also statistically significant and with the same sign. This is what we see here. But it's difficult to explain the results seen in this table. And then let me show you using figures. Remember, if the cross elasticity is positive, the two cities are demanded at the same time, they are complementary. And if they are negative, they are substitutes. Remember? Well, this is the effect. The result is the impulse response results of our Bekan model. And sorry for all many lines, but those that are in the over zero are showing that are related positively with the city we analyze. In this case, is Amsterdam. Amsterdam is positively related in the cross-sectional parameter with Athens, Barcelona, Copenhagen, and Dublin. So that should suggest that they are linked in the positive way, so they are demanded at the same time. If something happened, both receive the same effect, the same impact. But let me go directly to where is your city? Well, I'm sorry. No, I don't know. Well, I put. Let me explain London anyway. I put Berlin in order to you to see. But anyway, the idea is that we have done for all cities and check how systematically every city is statistically significantly linked with some cities in the positive way, suggesting that the city is the short-term rental market demand is going to the city, and what's happening in the city affect to the rest in positive way to those that are in the upper size of the figure, and in negative way those that are in the lower size in the city. For instance, in this case, London, this is the response of booking in London when asking prices growth one standard deviation in Athens, Copenhagen, Mallorca, Madrid. The response is very strong and it's positive. So an increase in prices increase the demand, the booking in London. So in this way, this London and these cities are an alternative demanded alternatively. But it's linked with Vienna, and there's others here. So I put all the details, probably is in the others. I don't know why. In Vienna, that means that an increase in prices in Vienna, the reaction of London, of booking in London is negative. So in those cases, these both markets, Vienna and London, are complementary. And in the other side are substitutive. I'm not sure if so others same than other cities. Well, let me skip these conclusions. Okay, let's go to the second model. In the second model, we use another different file of inside Airbnb, which is listing, in order to answer or give some information about whether or not and how much this market is affecting to conventional rental prices in some cities, and if they are the main reasons to these prices to growth, right? So the issue is right that there are a transmission effect between prices, or prices are growing because other reasons, and one of these other reasons are amenities. So this is a work made I'm doing with herbicides, And our hypothesis is whether or not prices will be strongly affected by amenities, even in the absence of short-term rental markets. So we don't have short-term rental market. Prices are linked with the amount of amenity and quality of amenity they have. And if not, probably the impact on the prices when short-term rental markets start to grow is a true. So what is the data set we use then is listing, and we have two problems. We had two problems with this paper. One is the amount of data we need. So we need huge data coming from different sources. And one of the key issues were put all the data in the same data sets in order to allow us to do the test, right? And second, how to focus the strategy. So the strategy followed two steps. One is, well, try to identify what the price growth and how the price growth is linked to amenities without short-term rental market. And then do it with short-term rental market in order to check the different effects. So the first of all is the contrafactual. We call the contrafactual price responses, is rental price responses. In this case is the formal or the conventional rental market response to the amenities. And in a period where the Airbnb didn't exist. So if we call contrafactual because we say, well, what happens if it exists? So we put the Airbnb activity inside in terms of number of contracts and prices. We assign to the same areas, and this is a contrafactual. We know that it doesn't exist, but we test whether we test it just considering that they exist. We expected to don't find any effect, right? And then test it again when Airbnb exists, and then test whether the contrafactual is significant or not. Why we do this? The literature, this is a summary of the literature and talking about what is happening in the cities and how the increase on inequality and increase are affecting to the increase of prices. There are many very important papers in the back of this scheme, and I invite you to read it because there's quite interesting. Cities are a live machine, so they are changing time to time. And I have seen the presentation of Berlin before. They're changing completely. So the literature says that as the economic growth, the inequality growth as well. This is a phenomenon coming from 2 decades at least since 90s. But after 20 years happening the same, what we find is that there is like a separation, like separation of the demand between low medium income households and high income households. And because inequality is increasing, the low medium income households are moving to the left of the distribution, and high income demand is moving to the right. So there is a concentration between the two poles of the distribution. And if this happens in a city that is becoming more and more active because it's a successful city, is Superstar City, this is the name of one of the main important papers, then they are competing for the space and competing for the houses. And because the houses are not normally the supply, last decade supply of new housing are reduced a lot. So there's a shortage on housing markets, both property and rents. And then there are competition between both. And in the competition, the high-income household gain and low-income household are forced to move to the surroundings, to the suburban areas here. And then they move to them, ask for or look for a house. The houses are more affordable, and the impact of increase on rents, but normally not increase as much of prices. But this is not our task here. But when low medium income demand cannot afford the houses in the city and move, they left an increase of supply that are being normally renewed and then form part of the supply that high-income demand are looking for. And the hypothesis is, if high-income demand win in these competitions and the area has amenities, then the rents increase and the housing prices increase. This is the line. So what we are trying to test is the role of the amenities. What is the role of the amenities in this competition, making rents to rise and house price to rise, and whether or not the distinction on housing rents increase in the center rather than in the skirts of the city is due to this. Well, it's a bit complex, but this is our hypothesis. Within attractive cities, housing cities and rent react depending most strongly on the quality of amenities. This is our hypothesis. Income inequality affects competition and drives a higher income household to buy or rent houses with more attractive amenities. And this is why the city centers has rising rents more quickly than other areas in the cities. And the increase in short-term rental market is not the main driver for the prices in beautiful areas. So, if our exercise is true or give us positive results, even in the absence of Airbnb, we would see a disproportional growth of rents there. And maybe it's not, we cannot fully separate the impact of Airbnb presence in the cities, but we could estimate the difference the difference between the impact on housing prices for those. So if we demonstrate this, there's a corollary, which is very important for policies, that Airbnb prohibitions might not have any impact on the evolution of rents, because the origin of the increase on rents is not Airbnb, but is how beautiful is the city. So the city is beautiful, the city is continuously being invested. That is what we should do. Then the rents are going to increase, although the Airbnb is not present. So empirical strategies, the first one I explained to you, we call the strategy one placebo exercise. So there's no Airbnb, but we consider that there is an Airbnb, and then we use the Airbnb from 2015-19 in a model that is limited to 2011. So in 2009 and 11, we have a very good observation data set of rental market in the cities I'm going to show you, and with most information, and in a period where the prices are going down, because it's immediately after the global financial crisis. So in 2015-19 is when the Airbnb is growing. So we don't expect to find any good results of this, because it's completely opposite trends, right? So the strategy 2 is a model, long-term rental price growth, controlling by high-dimensional micro-measures of amenities, neighborhood characteristics, inequality, and short-term rental activity in the market. So we merge all this information I will show you, and then estimate the changes on rent, whether or not depends of the distribution, income distribution, how big it is, the Airbnb, and the normal variables in the rental market. We apply this to 5 Spanish cities. The reason for we only select Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, Sevilla, and Bilbao is because we have data. The amount of information is huge, and it is not easy to find the same information for all cities. And we have for these cities, so let me show you the data set. So it took months to merge all this information. Another interesting issue is how we measure beauty. And this is something that I have no problems, because my colleague, my co-author, Albert, has used the concept of beauty and measures of beauty, beautiful or beautiful city before. And we use data set, a huge data set of photos of every city. All these data set is georeferences in all aspects. Each variable has georeferenced. The photos were georeferenced as well, so we could merge and use this. Short-term rental contracts are also georeferences. This is the inside Airbnb listing file as a georeference. We have transaction macro data sets from other research we had, and housing rent from ministry. We have some data sets from official data sets from the Ministry of Statistics in Spain that are very good, and all of them were available for us. We also test Idealista, which is another platform for rental and property markets, but the results using the formal data, the official data, were better. And we use census, right? Just to see how the variables are. The two first, Barcelona is the first one, Madrid is this one, are the photos, the data. And in the left, in the right, in the top, this is Sevilla, is the Airbnb information of Sevilla. The darker points are the more intensive number of observation in this data. This is the center. And in the last one is Valencia, is the observation of formal rental market. We need to separate, because when we plot a map with all the information, it's impossible to see anything. So let me skip from the results. This is the placebo results. The placebo results give a very statistically significant coefficient of Airbnb. Remember the placebo, we introduced Airbnb from 10 years later to the model, and we expected not to have any statistically significant effect, and it's quite important effect, and the effect is measured of 4.6% first. So we compare the different percentiles, and using also different characteristics of the houses during the 4 years. And what we found is that the introduction of Airbnb in the placebo model, finishing in 2011, so Airbnb didn't exist, is a statistically significant and create an increase of 1.84% of a higher rental growth due to Airbnb. And control for metro and year and building by units also we find statistically significant. So the places where the concentration of the beauty photos are tend to be more expensive in the beginning, in the period of crisis, more expensive than the resting levels. This is the results for the second. Look at the very good results. In the second exercise, we test the model for the period of Airbnb observations. And then we test again the impact on prices due to the Airbnb activity. In this case, comparing with data referring to the same time. Thanks. And then what we see is, well, central locations tend to have more Airbnb. There's concentration in central locations. Very, very interrelated phenomenon. So highly significant. They are also tend to be more expensive already in 2015. And the attractive places were also richer than the rest. So the distribution, income distribution, also show us how those with better amenities are also richer areas. And Airbnb dense areas were not that. Airbnb more frequently is relatively low income, but central and pictures locations are show that could have or will have more quality and more expensive. Right? These areas were ripe for gentrification, regardless for or Airbnb. So doesn't matter if Airbnb, well, it doesn't matter. The impact of the presence of Airbnb does not impede the process of gentrification due to the market has as the signal to do the gentrification due to the increase on prices. So let me, in terms of rental growth by tracking Spain, there seems to be affected for Airbnb. We don't say that Airbnb doesn't affect the rental market, the increase of rental market, not the level. But the association is small. And what we find is consistent with what has found other previous papers with effect, but small effect, a small effect. So 95% of percentile could increase on 0.5% of the total percent, compared to a growth of 18% of the rent that, for instance, Madrid and Barcelona has experienced last year, 0.5% to be a limited increase due to the impact of Airbnb. So this is my conclusion. I'm not sure if I had taken more time if I wanted, but thanks to you for your attention.
Yes, thank you very much. And I'm very glad that what you found out in your work is sort of related to what we found out in our work too.
Yes.
So that is always good when you see work that is new and you see, okay, it's not completely contradicting what you found out some years ago. So thank you very much. I have one question maybe to close up. Can you distinguish the age of those who are renting? Because some of these relationships between cities can, of course, be because there are linking. For example, young people with low income might be more vulnerable to cyclical movements, and the pensioners might be more stable. So there might be some cities that are interesting for the stable incomers and the no stable incomers. And that could be part of the story behind where are cities linked and where are cities not linked.
Good, thank you.
Can you find out that in data?
No, we don't have at the moment. We don't have information about those that signed the contract. We don't know. So in fact, most of the contracts are signed probably by companies, or there's no information. We still have to analyze the reviewers' files. The reviewers' files include opinions, and probably we can find some that approach the age of the people that are doing the contract. We are thinking to apply some probably machine learning methods to identify, to create new variables that could approach the age, because we don't know nothing about the demand. The only we know is that they do contract and the amount, and their opinions. The opinions are not I think the opinions cover like 40% of the total contracts. So not everybody include opinions, but it's enough. I mean, that is millions of observations. And this is something that we have in mind, but not now. We need to finish this.
That was very interesting, because I learned that doing this emoji is something like Generation X. Generation Z obviously doesn't use this emoji anymore. So if you find that in the reviews, you can have an idea about the age.
Unfortunately, the reviews doesn't contain emojis, but contains opinions. And this is how checking the text with a text analyzer could be done. But takes time and takes we need to check first, so it's it's a bit longer.
You could do some sort of maybe the original analysis where you group the text into different styles. That could be.
Yeah. Well, we in our team we have statistical analytics people, so people coming from A that could do it. So we have to see it, and this is one of the tasks we have to do in the future.
Very interesting. And thank you very much for your presentation. And thank you to taking us through all the statistics and the map models, because I think this is great to learn the work of economists and researchers on topics that then are relevant for practitioners too. And I think there are very important elements for practitioners too. So let me now close our today's session. Thank you very much for our presenters. Thank you very much for you staying on board. I would like to not summarize the whole thing because it was too diverse, and actually we are a little bit late now, but I think there was so much that I most likely do some sort of social media where I summarize. So stay tuned, and if you want to see us offline, we have a nice symposium in Regensburg on the 22nd of July, where we present at the Stadium of Regensburg, and we call it the end of Champions League, because real estate obviously has some trouble. So we will talk a little bit more about the current market situation and how and where academics can help. So hope to see you again. Hope you liked our session. Please give us feedback so we can get better, and hope to see you soon in the future. Thank you very much and have a nice evening. The sun is still shining.